Okay, hey y'all, welcome back to Sidewynders Shed. What I got here is I have a 5.2 liter Magnum, Dodge Magnum cylinder head, and the 5.2 and the 5.9 liter Magnums, they use the exact same head. Yes, there are different castings, and I don't know the particulars about the Magnum castings. I do know it's generally considered a better head than the LA. And what I have over here is the head off that 91 LA factory roller cam engine. And this one I've already gone through and cleaned it up and everything, and I'm sorry, but all the ports and everything, I am keeping them taped up right now because, be honest with you, I'm out of tape. So I don't want to take it off to show the difference in the ports right now. But there's plenty of other YouTube videos out there. I'm just doing this just as to keep in the same theme. One of the biggest differences on the heads is your LA, whether it's a roller cam or a flat tappet, has what they call a rocker shaft. These are your rocker arms, okay? And under here there is a shaft. They all sit on, this all comes off as one unit. You take these bolts out, it comes off as one unit. And as you can see, there's no adjustments for any valve lash. Okay, once you set it in, it's good to go. The way you do adjust it, if you put a different cam in or find that these need to be adjusted, there are shims that can go right in here where this shaft sits. There are little shims that can go in there, and you can adjust the height. Other than that, you have to get custom made push rods. Now, I don't build high performance engines. I'm sure there's other tricks to it, but that's basically the way I was taught and what I was told. Magnum engines, on the other hand, these here are a stud type, and as you can see, they come off in pairs, and this is where they bolt on. And for these are easy enough that you can get adjusters. And right here, this tab as well. Underneath is where your push rod's set. Now, a lot of these aftermarket ones in high performance, they will have a little set screw right here, and you can adjust your valve lash on them. The other big difference is the way the heads are designed as far as the combustion chamber is concerned. Let me see if I can't flip this one over. They're heavy. On your LA heads, they have what's called an open combustion chamber. You see how that's round and you have this little space here? Okay, it's an open combustion chamber. The valves, even on this is a 360 head. This is a 308 casting. The valves on an LA are actually smaller than they are on the Magnums. Okay, so the valve seats themselves, the size of the valves are smaller, and the valve stem itself is a different size. Right here, the valve stem that sticks up through is a different size on both these engines, so the valves are not interchangeable. That LA head normally has somewhere around just to round it off, a 70 cc combustion chamber. They'll run anywhere from 68 to 74 cc's depending on the casting. This, if you notice right here, that is, I know it's dirty, but that is flat across. On the LA, that was not flat. It didn't come down and meet the mating surface flat. It was indented. Same down here. Okay, so this is not an open chamber. See how that is all flat? And the valves are actually quite a bit bigger on these heads. As far as the castings go, like I said, I have no idea what the difference is between the different castings for the Magnum engines. I haven't delved into them too much. I'm not quite sure about I know the ports are a little bit different in size and shape, but these Magnum heads will fit and work on an LA engine. The LA heads will fit on a Magnum engine, but again, because of the oiling, the way they're supposed to be oiled, there's no passageway to actually get oil up in the shaft on a Magnum block, so you have a tendency to run these things dry. I've actually seen an engine, a Magnum block that somebody put LA heads on and put a flat tappet cam in and drove it for about 200 miles, and then they junked it because they tore up the valve train up here. It was basically running dry. So, you know, it's something you have to watch out for. Anyway, I know generally, no matter what casting you get for a Magnum, the casting is usually a lot better. The ports are a lot smoother. The bowl work is a lot better. They flow a lot better. And because they have a smaller combustion chamber, somewhere around, I think it's basically 10 cc's smaller than the LA, so it's basically somewhere around 58 to 64 cc's on average. They build higher compression. Higher compression generally means more horsepower. Okay, so they will produce a little bit more horsepower, and especially with the smog engine like I'm putting together right now, the compression ratio on that engine is probably somewhere around 8 to 1. It's a very, by modern standards, it's a low compression engine. These run around 9.1 to 9.5 to 1 compression, quite a bit higher. Two things, the piston design and the combustion chamber design, the fact that it's a closed combustion chamber. It's not open, it's a smaller combustion chamber. It makes a big difference. Why am I not going to put Magnum heads on this engine? I'm not building a race engine. I don't need to. And I'm looking more for torque. Now, since I have to get this engine block bored out, and I definitely at the minimum have to get new pistons, you can get different pistons that will give you different compression ratios, and that's what I'll probably do. I'll measure my my travel and see what my options are for pistons. I'll maybe get a little bit piston comes a little bit closer to the top per se, and depending on what happens with the engine at the machine shop, they might even shave the block a little bit. I don't want to go too crazy with it. That messes with your tolerances and your gaskets and everything else. There's a lot of little intricacies that you have to watch out for. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get this engine, even if I don't put a stroker in it, I'm hoping to get this engine up to around 9 to 1 compression. That's still good for the lower grade pump gases and everything, because you know the price of fuel nowadays. I don't want to have to be buying premium or race gasoline. You know, I want to run 87, to be honest with you. And again, I'm not worried about high RPM, high horsepower. I'm looking for all bottom end torque. This engine is never going to see over 4,500 RPMs on purpose. And most of the power I need it to make between 1,500 and honestly 2,500 RPMs. That 1,000 RPM range. And so that's what I'm trying to spec the engine out for. The smaller valves are not going to hurt torque. They're going to help torque rather than the larger valves, because I want a little bit more, I'm more interested in velocity than flow. I'm more interested in the speed at low RPMs that the fuel in the air gets into the engine than I am for the amount that gets into the engine at higher RPMs. Anyway, enough babbling, but that's the basic difference between the LA and the Magnum. And again, yeah, if I wanted to, it'd be very, very, very simple, especially with this roller cam engine. To basically, I could just basically bolt these Magnum heads on this engine. With a normal LA, you would have to go out and buy this type of lifter and the hollow push rods, and then you have to get special dog bones and everything to keep the lifters from spinning. And right now, from what everyone's telling me, that's $800 to $1,000 worth of extra parts. And I'm not talking the cheap white box Chinese parts. I'm talking about the ones that are supposed to be good, but they all seem to be Chinesium nowadays anyway. It just depends how much you want to pay to get screwed. With this engine, I have everything I need. I wouldn't have to change anything. Honestly, I wouldn't have to change or buy any extra parts at all. But the biggest problem is my intake manifold will not bolt to this head. And considering I have a throttle body intake manifold, nobody makes a throttle body intake manifold for a Magnum. They make a multi-port fuel injected intake manifold, but they don't make a throttle body. Not only that, but I already did the work on the LA heads, and yeah, even if I put a stroker in there, that gives me a little bit more wiggle room for my compression ratio. There's a lot more I can do with that without making it a 11, 12 to 1, you know, compression ratio. So there's a little bit, few more options. And considering I have an engine that has over 250,000 miles on it with very little problems, the heads aren't cracked, and everything is running fine except that it's tired, I'm going to stick with the old technology and go with the rocker shafts. That's for longevity. These are more for performance. The problem with these two are they have a tendency to crack right between the valves. I'm fortunate, the set of heads that I have, all four of these heads, the two Magnums and the two LAs, none of them are cracked. They're all in good shape. Relatively speaking, I mean, their base is good. They all need to be cleaned up and have the valves cleaned up and everything. Like I said, those ones are done. I got videos out for that. But alright guys, I know I said it before, but enough babbling. I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate all the new subscribers. I hope this is getting some information out there. Again, the next video, I'm going to dig into more of those minor differences between the LA and the Magnum, and more specifically, what parts are Magnum parts that this LA roller cam engine uses, and what parts are LA parts that this roller cam LA engine uses. Because again, like I said, it makes a difference, and I'm learning as I go, because this information is not out there. There's a lot of information between the LA and the Magnum, but there's not a whole lot of information on these LA roller cam engines. And like I said, what I found out, at least this 91, and so I'm going to assume my 92 that's in my truck, they use the Magnum connecting rods. They use the Magnum cam bearing, or cam gear. And I got to find out what other internal parts are Magnum parts. again, the LA and the Magnum 360s are externally balanced. And so it makes a difference on harmonic balancer. It makes a difference on what torque converter weights are used on these two types of engines. And if the internals on this LA roller are Magnums, well then it's going to need the Magnum harmonic balancer, not the LA. You know, and so we're going to go through and we're gonna find out what parts inside this LA roller are the same as Magnum, and what parts are the same as an old LA, because I just can't find that information online in YouTube anywhere. So that's what I'm going to start to delve into real hard on the next couple videos, and hopefully that'll help any of you gearheads, engine builders out there. It'll through my mistakes and my finding it out the hard way, hopefully this will just put some information out and help you all out. All right, y'all, have a good day. We'll catch you next time.